Following an accident, it is difficult to pin down exactly when I had the experience, as I was in surgery much of the time and also in a coma for the following week. I do remember being transferred from one accident and emergency hospital to a specialist unit because the medics could not help me further after being resuscitated and deteriorating further. As part of the experience, I was taken by ambulance with a police escort to the specialist trauma surgical team. The ambulance drove for a distance up a motorway at night. When I awoke from the coma, I had a clear recollection of flying above the scene, looking down and going backward, watching the ambulance and keeping pace with it. I also clearly remembered a family member in the front of the ambulance going with me being sick into a bag. This was verified afterward and was the only part of the experience that I can put an actual exact time on. The following experiences in my memory don't seem to be linked as following directly from that. I remember being in a very big void of darkness. There was some danger or negative aspects such as beings or entities involved, but I did not remember seeing or experiencing them, just being aware of them. Then I moved quickly to a warm and absolute feeling of love and light. On the way through to it, I was stopped. Some beings, both what seemed like beings of light and love and some family members who had passed away, were in a semicircle, and I stopped just before them. They looked as they did on Earth, but were not material and all had much light, calmness and serenity about them. I saw my aunt who died at age 7 1 year before I was born. I described to family members the exact clothes and certain jewelry she had on the day she died, which was confirmed. It was impossible to have this information without seeing it. They seemed to be welcoming me. The beings of light with them seemed not to have ever been in a material body. They could be described as angels, however they had no wings that I can understand where that comes from. In history, the love radiating from their hearts was so powerful and large that it surrounded their upper body almost like wings. This bit is a bit blurred. I seem to leave them, but I don't remember moving before coming back to them later. I went to the light which was above them, and it was just pure unconditional love and acceptance. As I moved towards it, I felt no fear, but do remember thinking that I was sorry for anything wrong I had done in life at the time. I then experienced a partial life review. Many events in my life I experienced, but not from how I remembered it, but from the point of view of how the people, animals and environment experienced it around me. I felt it as my own. The times I had made others happy and sad, I felt it all as they did. It was very apparent that every single thought, word and action affects everything around the entire universe, including trees, plants and animals too. I've been a long-term vegetarian since about 18 years old, and I know this is appreciated and is a good choice in life. Spiritually, it seemed to show proof of respect for all life, and it even seemed to balance some of the negative and wicked things I have done in my life. In the life review, we judge ourselves, no one else does. The light did not, but with no ego left and no lies, we can't hide from what we have done and feel remorse and shame, especially in the presence of this love and light. Some of the things in life we think of as important don't seem to be so important there, but some of the insignificant things from the material human perspective are very important spiritually. After this review, there seemed to be some kind of balance that I had done wrong. However, I had done much good too, and as I was genuinely sorry for those things, I then started to get closer to the light again. It is beyond description. The love, acceptance and oneness of everything is so profound then, though, and I'm not sure if this is just a disjointed memory or if it happened in the timeline like this. I was back with the semicircle of beings and family. I seemed to be looking up at my grandfather. He had so much love and light about him for me. He wanted me to go with him, but I knew I had to go to the light, not with him. He seemed sad, but still full of love for me. As I looked up, a tear fell from his right eye, as if he would miss me. This is why it is disjointed, as below I seem to be practically next to the light. I hesitate to use the word God as it is non-judging, and we create our world more than I realized before we can create a heaven or hell depending on what we do in life. Surely the starving fields of Africa with children dying of hot arid diseases and war as hell, and the joyous bliss of love and helping is heaven. We create this, not someone else. Also, God is a separate thing. This love and light, to my experience, was one as something in all of us we block out, as I will describe further. Now I was ready to start to merge with the love and light, but not fully, and seemed to for a while, though time does not exist as we experience it there. The feeling of oneness, love, bliss and knowing is profound. I knew if I merged totally I would disappear and become one with it all. Being so close to it and bathing in it was an experience that can never be put into words. or describe properly. As I was resting close to it, and getting closer and closer basking, I became aware of the earth way below me, or as I was at that time asking many questions which were answered anything I wanted to know and understand. I remember clearly understanding everything, however this information seems to have been blocked upon returning to material form, but I know I understood all then. Seeing the earth, I became aware of several things. I could see many other spirits beings who were also leaving their bodies and moving away from the earth, however many of them in their spiritual bodies seemed to not be able to see the light and love above. They had almost like clouds above their heads, like clouds blocking out the sun. It's still there, but we can't see it. I was very aware that those clouds were their thought and feeling patterns. The more angry, hateful, bitter, etc., the bigger and darker these clouds were, which is just another description of their minds. The more negative ones also seemed to be looking down, not even up. I could experience their feelings, anger, etc. I wanted them to look up and see the love and come to the light, but I couldn't get my message to them. This is part of the experience that is not nice. Those negative beings seem to come from the earth and go down away from the light. I was aware of them going to avoid a darkness and suffering, or perpetual round and round in circles in their experiences of the negative record player, almost habits of thoughts and feelings. I was aware of them going somewhere like hell, but I was not allowed to remember it, or it has been blocked from my memory. The love and light didn't want anyone to experience that and was doing all it could to let them come to it, but they could not, or would not accept or see it. It was obvious they were creating this experience, not a separate devil or God punishing them. Maybe their life review filled them with so much remorse they had to punish themselves. Maybe in the life review they did not feel any remorse and just felt anger when others had felt good in their suffering or downfall. I do know though that it was their choice, their creation, not a separate God's choice or devil. I never experienced any type of separate devil or being calling them. They just could not see the light. Their minds or hearts were obstructed by their current and past thoughts and habits. It was there so bright and obvious to me, but they just could not see it. Maybe it was where I was going, or what I experienced in the beginning when in the void, and seemed aware of some negative entities or beings. I'm no saint, and have done much wrong in my life, so I do not understand still why I was never like that myself. Some were coming to the light, or looking up, had no dark swirling, or just a bit of energy above and around their heads, but from what I remember only a really small percentage, maybe 1 in 100 or less. I'm still worried to this day about the following, as I'm scared to become one of those who couldn't see it. I became aware too of beings, mainly humans on the earth, still alive, and could again see this either clearness or light about them, or dark swirling thoughts or energy. Again, very few seem to be positive. A couple in each continent seem to be in material form and able to see the light whilst alive. They were looking up, smiling, aware of it, with no dark negative thoughts or energies around them. Maybe 10 or 20 in the whole world. The rest of humanity had a mixture, but most were looking down and had much darkness about them. I then understood at that time that this is an important time indeed. On the earth there are other planets and other beings out there, but for humans on the earth this is a very important time. We seem to be on a precipice, and either total destruction or a better way seems to be on a razor's edge. This love is not going to do anything to us or smite us. We do it all, and we create it all. We choose by our love for others and helping, or selfishness. I was made aware of some things coming up very important, but this again was blocked. It seemed as if 2 scenarios could play out on Earth. One of them made me so sad, but again I can't remember it. It's blocked whilst watching this, which probably happened in less than a second, as time is so different. There I was getting closer to the light, but turning away from facing it, watching this on the earth and souls leaving the material. I had a feeling of such love for all beings and such sadness that the pain and confusion by those who couldn't see this love and light but had died, and those on the earth suffering. These emotions were so unlike anything I've ever experienced, so strong. And I realized too that our emotions, that love and compassion, are what ultimately hold everything together. All is love, but like the clouds of energy above many, we just don't see it. It does not mean though that it doesn't pervade all that is and is in every atom and molecule. My heart seemed to leap out, wanting to help ease the suffering of what I could see. I just wanted to help, to let all experience some of this love and light that I was basking in with. That thought the experience changed immediately. I felt like I was on a roller coaster falling over the top, moving faster than light itself. That was the last of the experience. I awoke from the coma in December 2004. About a week after the accident, I had been resuscitated a few times and undergone emergency surgery multiple times. On December 3rd, I was told I would never walk or talk again, even if I survived. However, I walked unaided out of the hospital with no drugs or support package. On December 23, 2004, the stats for my mortality were 75% on day 1, 90% in the following 2 to 3 days, and a yearly 20-30% mortality rate, since the chance of communicating and walking again was 0 to 5% thereafter, and even then it would be with difficulty. It took me a year of repeated tests and convincing the driving authorities in the UK medical department that the recovery had happened. I have a letter from their medical department stating that despite what happened, it is obvious that I had made a full recovery and I now have a full driving license. I experienced an epidural hematoma 3 times, and I was not found until at least 5 hours after the event. When the paramedics arrived, I had half of my skull removed to deflate the pressure and to access the bleeds, which made me crash 2 times with an admittance to the specialist department. These events are very dangerous and carry a high mortality and long-term disability rate. The fact that I walked unaided with no painkillers and no support package out of the hospital less than 1 month later, or 2 weeks from waking from the coma in the specialist intensive care unit with half or most of my right skull removed, is in itself proof that the events were extraordinary. After waking up, I also experienced for a couple of days an awareness of non-material beings in the hospital, the same sorts of beings that I experienced in the NDE. Some beings were bad and some were good. I'm no longer aware of them, but sometimes now I get a feeling that a particularly powerful good or bad one is near.